Hello everyone, welcome to the Apptics 101 series. This Apptics 101 series is an initiative that provides an in-depth understanding of Zoho Apptics, and you will see the what, why and how of each feature within Apptics. So in today's session, you will be exploring the in-app updates, in-app ratings and remote configuration modules in Apptics. So we'll be learning how these features help you in creating delightful and smooth app experiences for your users. I am Supraja Gayatri and I'm a product marketer from Zoho Apptics, and I will be guiding you through the entire session. And meanwhile, when you have any doubts, you can ask our panelists who are Saravanan and Lakshmikant from our Apptics team. So feel free to ask any questions in between and they will help you answer them. And moving on, as usual, as we proceed towards our session, we usually have a recap of what we covered in our previous session. So in our second webinar, we covered the topics of what is crash reporting and non-fatal errors and how it works in Apptics. Then we saw why we need an application debug symbol file management tool, and we saw how symbols and mappings in Apptics helps you do that. Then we saw how to use remote logger feature in Apptics, and then we explored the performance metrics that are offered for iOS apps in Apptics. So after learning how to deal with crashes, debug them and fix them as soon as possible, now we'll be learning about how to create great user experiences. So this is the agenda for today. Why should your app deliver a good app experience? This would be our first point that we'll be covering. Then we'll be looking into the individual features, like what are in-app updates and why are they essential for your app, and how to configure them using Apptics. Then we'll be seeing remote configuration and how it can be used to reduce the frequency of updates that you release for your app. And lastly, we'll be seeing in-app ratings and we'll be seeing how to use them using Apptics. So before we go into the session, let me ask you an interesting question. How many of you have been to road trips or long drives? We all would have been to many, isn't it? At least once in a lifetime. And we all know that there are many memorable experiences that we can share, and many anecdotes, isn't it? But how do you think these long drives or road trips become great experiences? That happens only when you start enjoying the journey, isn't it? The same goes for mobile app experience as well. So when you consider any product or app, it is necessary that your users have a smooth journey and they don't have to worry about any, speed breaks, or they don't have to worry about any, breakdowns throughout the journey. And they just want to make sure that wherever they're going towards, they enjoy the whole ride or whole trip, isn't it? So this is what we all developers strive for, that is giving a good user experience. And as you can see here, there are studies that prove that over 90% of users quit an app just because they had a bad user experience. And we all don't want that to happen to our apps, isn't it? Do we? No, right? So when we create a product or an app, we put our heart and soul into it. And it is basically a continuous quest to improve it. So we start identifying underperforming aspects and fix bugs, as we saw in our previous webinar, like how we debug them, how we make sure that users don't get the same issue that they are having before, and so on. Now, as a further step, we start optimizing our app and then bringing new features to our app, isn't it? So when we bring new features to our app, we also release new updates. But getting users to update your app and make sure they're using the right version is another story altogether. So users often tend to ignore app updates, or most of the times they aren't aware of it. And to be honest, we all know, right? Even me, including me, if I don't have an option to auto update, or if I don't have an option to, like to have notifications about a new update, or if I don't see a pop up telling me to update an app, I would definitely not go to the and try to, go to the Play Store or App Store and see if there are any new updates and update them. It's because I simply don't find the time to do it, isn't it? So at these places, how would you make sure that your users experience the latest app version? You would have done the best from your side, but it's only possible for your users to experience them only if they update your app. So, at these instances, we need to think for a solution, and that's where in app updates come into the picture. So, in today's session, we'll be having a live console demo and we'll be seeing how to configure these in-app update alert prompts. And then we'll be also seeing how it works for different platforms as well. Then in in-app updates, in Apptics, we also support apps that aren't hosted in App Store or Play Store, but they are hosted in a custom URL. So in those cases too, you can prompt users to update your app to the latest version, even if they aren't hosted in App Store or Play Store. Then we have stats on in-app update alerts that you have configured, and you can make sure that the update alerts that you show to your users are effective. So without further ado, let's see the live demo in the console. So before I start explaining about how in-app updates works in the console, I would like to say that all the three features that we'll be looking into, like in-app updates, then remote configuration and in-app ratings, they all require some basic SDK integration from your side in the SDK side. So for that, you can either refer to our previous webinars, or you can also refer to our SDK guide, where you can do the simple SDK integration, and once the necessary configurations are in place, you can start using these features in the Apptics console. So as you can see here, once you have finished the SDK configurations for in-app updates, you will be able to see the stats for app version adoption range over here. So to keep it in simple terms, you will be able to see the adoption rate for each app version. As you can see here, the number of devices that have adopted to a particular app version decrease as the version gets older. So you will be able to get these stats and configure in-app update prompts once the SDK configurations are done and are in the right place. So as you can see here, you need to first select the bundle ID, and then you can click on configure to configure the in-app updates. So you can configure in-app updates across different application IDs and platforms. So for now, we'll be looking into how we'll be configuring in-app updates for Android app. So as you can see here, the first step is to choose the promoted app version and the minimum SDK version. So for Android, you need to provide the minimum SDK version, and for iOS, you need to provide deployment target. So both are to be provided within the while you configure the SDK itself. And again, to explain this in simple terms, we can say that these are the minimum OS version that your app supports. So once you provide that in the SDK configuration, this will be reflected over here. Now let's select the recent app version or the latest app version that you want to promote using the in-app update prompt. So I have already configured and I have already promoted this 2.0 version as the latest version. So once I confirm that, this means that whatever pop-up that you will be showing to your users will make sure that the users update to the latest version, and in our case it is 2.0. So once you have selected the promoted app version, you can now either download the sample file and then you can refer to the sample file that we had downloaded before. Once the JSON file is downloaded, you can go and make the changes or provide the content that you want to provide within the pop-up, and then you can click on upload to upload the JSON file. So once you upload the JSON file, you can also preview the alert message that you will be showing to your users. And over here, as you can see, you can preview the alert message to see how it looks across different languages and different alert types as well. So as you can see here, as I click on different alert types, you can see how the alert will be shown to users across different languages and different alert types. Now let's also see the alert types that you have in Apptics. Now let's look into the different alert types that you can configure using in-app updates in Apptics. So as you can see here, for Android there are three options: Android in-app alerts, Apptics custom alerts, and then Apptics native alerts. For Android apps, we have provided one more option as Android in-app alerts, because Google already provides an option for showing in-app alerts, but that is limited only to apps that are hosted in Play Store. And also there is one more condition where it is only applicable for app versions that support Android version 5.0 or later. So you can use that option if the conditions apply, or you can use Apptics native alerts that provides the template based on the native platform or native OS. So for in our case, Android provides this template. Based on this template, this UI, they will provide we provide a template for each type of update alert message that can be shown. And then there's custom alerts as well that we provide from Apptics, where you can customize the look and feel of the app alert that will be shown to your users, and you can do that by using our SDK APIs to customize the look and feel of the in-app alerts. So let's first explore each alert type. To start with, let's go with Android in-app alerts. As I said before, Android already provides this option, but it only provides two types of alerts. One is flexible, and then there's an immediate type of alert. But in flexible type of alert, they will be able to click on update, and while the update will start to the latest app version will be started to install in their devices. But this will happen in the background, so they can still use the app, and once the installation is over, they can restart the app, and then they'll be able to experience the latest app version. But when it comes to immediate type of alert, they don't have an option to make sure the install is running in the background. Instead, they would have to click on the update button, and they will be redirected to the Play Store, and from there they would have to install the latest app version. So apart from these two types of alerts, we also provide third type of alert for force update, where you can use this kind of alert type for providing updates for critical alerts. So for that, this is a template provided by Apptics only. This is not provided by Google. So as you can see here, there are three types of updates provided under the Android in-app alert option. Sorry. And then next we have Apptics custom alerts. As you saw before, there are four types of alerts that you can configure under the Apptics custom alerts. So over here we have ignorable, remind me, force update, and non-supported OS update. So basically, ignorable updates can be provided to can be configured and shown to users when you have new enhancements made to your app and you have released an update, but it can be skipped, or it is not that critical at that moment to the point where it affects the app's performance, or it provides an issue or so on. So in those cases, you can configure an ignorable update alert, where they will be provided the option to either update the app or provide a remind me update or provide a reminder to update the app, or also they have the option to ignore the update. Then we have the remind me type of update alert, where you will be showing this pop-up to update the to the latest app version to users, but they will not have the option to ignore it. So they can either update it right away, or they will have the option to just like how you snooze alarms, they will be able to uh, click on remind me later, so that a reminder pop-up will be shown to them after a number of days. So you can configure that over here by first choosing the app versions for which you want to show the update alert for, and then you can choose the reminder to remind the n number of days after which you want to show the reminder pop-up. And once this is done, they will be shown a force update pop-up after number of reminders shown to them. So that's when this force update comes into the picture. So for example, say I am using an outdated app version, and now it has started to affect the app experience that I am getting from your app. So what you can do is you can configure the force update alert, where you provide the option to only update, and you don't provide the option to ignore it or skip the update alert update. And you can ensure that your users install the latest app version, and this is the force update alert that I spoke about earlier too. So you can configure this for any critical update or any security vulnerability that you have found out and you have provided a fix for it. So at those cases, force update alert will be helpful for you. Then we have the fourth type called as non-supported OS. So in this type of alert, though this is an edge case, we wanted to cover that in Apptics. So this is basically when your app doesn't support a particular OS version, and for it might be because of the security reason, or it might be because the user isn't using the latest OS version, and so on. So for that, you can show an alert that says that, hey, you're using an outdated app version, and for that you have to update to the latest OS version to use our app. You can show this pop-up to them so that the users would know that your app will be available for them only if they install to the latest OS version. So once you do that, you can publish the update. But there are some cases where your app might not be in the Play Store or App Store, but still you can provide the custom URL, build URL, and make sure that your app is still being updated to the latest app version, and these update alerts are shown to those users as well. So for that cases, you can provide the build URL over here, and then once all the necessary configurations are done, you can click on publish update. So once I confirm and save, the configuration will be added here successfully. So now, as you saw here, once I configured the in-app update alert, you'll be seeing the list of configurations that I have done for the particular application ID. Okay, so once the configuration is done for in-app updates, you can go to you can see the list of recently configured update alerts over here for the particular application ID. And once you click on this, you will be able to see a detailed report of the number of impressions that your update alert has received, and you can measure how effective each update alert has been by seeing the download rate or the number of remind me later option, that number of times your users have used that option, and so on. You can see how well your app updates work for your users from here. So that's it for the in-app updates console. Okay, now we saw how in-app updates works in Apptics, and we saw how to configure these in-app update alert prompts for your users using Apptics. Now, let's move on to the next segment, and it's about remote configuration. So now we all saw how important it is for your users to update to the latest app version, and so that they can experience the new features or any app updates that you have provided, or including any bug fixes, and make sure that their user experience is smooth and delightful for them. But how often can you provide them these update alerts? And to be honest, we all have to admit that how many of us feel frustrated when there's a pop-up or notification that keeps on telling you to update an app all the time. Now imagine you're using an app and it tells you to update the app twice every week. Now once, okay, fine. Twice, okay, fine. Now imagine this for the whole month. Will you be ready to use the app again? No, right? So here's a problem that we all developers face. Though we have many new things, enhancements that we want to bring into our app, we need to make sure that our app users update the app so that they can experience those changes in the app, isn't it? But for that, you have to provide these prompts, and which can lead to user frustration and even uninstalls. So at these places, we need to set a limit to the number of releases or number of app updates that we provide to our users, isn't it? So at these places, you might have small changes that you want to make, but still you need to wait for an update. So what you can do here is, you can use remote configuration. And remote configuration is nothing but doing dynamic or small changes to your app's behavior, or toggling features, or changing maybe small things like the button color or the text, or showing a banner to only a particular segment of users, and so on, remotely. So remote configuration is a feature where you can make changes to your app without actually shipping out an actual update. So you can make sure that your app users experience the best version, or the best form, or best they get to experience your app in a better way without frustrating them with frequent updates. And you can also maintain a balance between the quantity and quality of app updates that you provide to your users. So let's see how the remote configuration works in Apptics. This is the remote configuration module in the Apptics console, and as you can see here, the remote configuration module works by adding new parameters and conditions to your app. And these set of parameters and conditions, once they are published, they basically act like controls for your app's behavior and look and appearance. So what you can do is, you can add a set of parameters, and you can define the conditions based on which these parameters change. So let's look into each step so that you can understand this module a bit better. So first you need to add a parameter, and these parameters are basically the default key value pairs. And it means that, for example, say I have a button that is shown to all the users, and it is shown in red color to all my users. So this becomes a default parameter key value pair that I add over here. So this means that once I add this parameter, it tells that there's a button and the button color is red for all of them by default. Now what I do is, I set a condition tab, and I can add a condition that can be applied to the parameter. So now, for example, I want to show my the button color as gray for a particular set of devices or users. So for now, let me say there's a filter for the country that I'm going to apply. So as you can see here, I can add a condition, and then once I provide the condition name, I can choose the criteria based on which the condition will be applied. So as you can see here, I can provide the criteria based on device type, app version, OS version or countries, or even provide a custom criteria. And for custom criteria, you can provide the condition key and the value pairs, comma, they can be provided in a comma separated form over here, and this should be provided in a perfect JSON value so that it can be later used to apply for the particular parameters. Now let's not go into the custom criteria, and let's see first how we can apply the existing using the existing criteria. So for our case, I choose the countries criteria, and I make sure that say for example my customers in Australia, they get to see my button color as gray. For like I don't want to show it in red for that region of customers. So I add this condition over here, and once I do that, I go to the parameters tab and apply the condition that I have created to the parameter. Now what I do is I add a condition that I have already applied, say filter, and now I provide the value that I want to that I want here. So since I have provided gray, it means that once the filter condition is applied to this parameter, the button color, which is red by default, will be changed to gray. So once I update this, what happens is that the condition will be applied to the parameter that I have already added over here. And also under the conditions tab, you will be able to see the associated parameters that the condition is applied to. So once I have done the necessary configurations, what I do is I click on preview and publish. So over here you can see the set of parameters and conditions that have been that I have configured previously and till now. And once you can check what and all changes you have done, and once everything is good to go, you can provide your conditions you can provide your comments on the changes that you're doing so that it can be a reference for you in the future. And once you do that, you can click on publish. So yes, once it's published, it immediately gets reflected in your app based on the conditions that you have applied over here. So as you can see here, these are the parameters and conditions that I have applied previously, and the same will be reflected in my app according to the conditions and parameters I have applied over here. Parameters and conditions to make minor changes to your app using remote configuration in Apptics. So now I'll try to show you an example. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to show a green color button to red for a particular set of users who are using app version 2.0. So what we do here is we first add a condition saying app version, and then we choose the criteria as app version and set it to 2.0. And once we add this condition, we go to the parameters tab and now configure the parameter. So basically we had a button that is by default in green color. So we provide the parameter key and the default value and then apply the condition that we had added earlier. And here, as you can see, we provided the app version and then provided it as red. So based on the configuration that we have done here, you can see that the default color is green, and then the app based on the app version they use, and if the app version is 2.0, the button color will change to red. So once we reviewed the changes, we provided the comments for our future reference, and then we click on publish. So once this we have published this, we go to our Android Studio, and as you can see here, we first go and make some changes on our app's code level. So over here, as you can see, we changed the app version code and name to 2.0 to see how it works. Now we go to our SDK side, and now we run the app code. Now as you can see, once the app reboots, the color changes to red. So this is how it works in Apptics. So you can use remote configuration for various use cases, and this is one of the simple examples that we try to simulate using remote configuration in Apptics. Let's also explore in-app ratings. So before we see how in-app ratings works in the Apptics console, let me walk you through a small anecdote that, a small incident that happened last week for me. So I had to purchase a few medicines, and I was in a hurry. So before that, I had to do a bank transaction, but it failed. That's okay, it happens, right? So I just quit the banking app, but unfortunately, it showed me a pop-up asking for ratings. Now I was like, okay, let me calm myself down, and I just hit the skip button. And now when I start ordering the medicines that I wanted in the online medicine store, what happened was I couldn't place my orders. Now I was in a hurry, and I was trying to quit the app, and again, guess what? I see the pop-up asking me to rate the app. Now at this point, I was literally frustrated. Now imagine the same situation for your users. Now we all know that how user ratings and reviews are important for your app's visibility in the marketplace, isn't it? Because based on these reviews and the ratings, your app becomes more visible or less visible in the App Store or Play Store. And also based on these reviews, people tend to install your app, or people decide to whether install your app or not. So we know how crucial these ratings are. And more importantly, now we come to know how important it is to make sure that these rating prompts are triggered at the right point, isn't it? Because you don't want negative reviews for your app, right? So that's where in-app ratings come into the picture. So in-app ratings in Apptics helps you to collect user ratings from within the app. So you can configure a set of dynamic criteria for your users and make sure that the rating prompts are shown to your users at the right moment and not at the wrong frustrating points. So by this way, you can gain valuable ratings and insights from your users without affecting your app's ratings or reviews. Now as you can see here, this is the in-app ratings module in the Apptics console. And as I had mentioned earlier, all these three features that we have, like in-app updates, ratings, and remote configuration, you need to do a set of basic SDK integration and configuration steps before you can use these features. So once all the configurations are in place, you can now select the bundle ID and click on configure. So as you can see here, I select the bundle ID, and now I choose the app version for which I want to show the ratings prompt. And as you can see here, this is the workflow of the pop-up that will be shown to your users. So first it will ask for a rating, and once they submit the rating, they can also provide a review. And if they click on this option to write a review, they are redirected to this screen where they can provide their valuable feedback. Prompts for all the platforms like iOS, Android, and Flutter or React Native are the same. But there's one more additional step that you need to go through for iOS apps. and that's to define the number of days after which you want to show the second and third ratings prompt. So, as many of the iOS developers would know, that Apple has a policy on showing the ratings and reviews prompt for your users. So, you can only prompt 3 times a year to your users. So, you can show these rating prompts only 3 times in 365 days. So in Aptics, we provide an option where you can also provide the number of days after which you want to show the second as well as the third prompts for your app. So once you provide the necessary details, you can now set the dynamic criteria to show these prompts. So I have already created a set of criteria for our demo purpose. But before that, let me show you the flow of how to create a criteria or how to set them from here. So as you can see, there are 2 modes based on which you can create the criteria, and over here we have 2 types, that is score based and hit count based. So before I show you how to configure them, let me explain how these 2 modes work. So for score based model, you can configure criteria based on the goal score. So here you set say a goal score of maybe 100. It means that you provide the goal score that your user should achieve before the ratings prompt is shown. So based on the categories like events, screens, or sessions, you can you can create the criteria and provide the weightage for each category that you set. Say for example, here I have selected the event and the event is login, and for that I provide the weightage as 10. It means that every time the user logs in, the weightage score will be added, and for this case it is 10. So every time a user logs in, 10 points are added, and once they reach 100, that means once they log into your app 10 times, they fulfill this criteria, and then the ratings prompt will be shown. So you can, I have created based on events. I can also add another category where I select, say, the session duration. Say I provide the weightage as 10 again, then I choose a particular duration, say 31 to 60 seconds. It means that every time a user has a session with length duration that is 31 to 60 seconds, 10 points are added to the score. So once they reach this goal score of 100, they will be shown the latest prompt. Now similarly, let me show you how the hit count based mode works. So as we saw earlier, we similar to how we configured for score based criteria, we would have to choose the category based on which you want to configure the criteria. Then you have to select the screen based on which you can provide the hit count. So over here, you can directly specify the number of times the user has to visit a particular screen or perform a particular action, or the number of sessions that they need to, complete before the ratings prompt is shown. So once you provide the necessary details and the necessary categories that you want to choose, you can proceed further. So for example, say I have provided this. This means that once the user has logged in for 5 times, and then they have accessed the home screen for more than 5 times, the ratings prompt is shown. So this was all about how you configure them. So as you can see here, I have set the dynamic criteria. So this is one option that I have created based on the score based mode, where the user should purchase, or they should have a session for more than 180 for at least 3 minutes, and every time they purchase, 20 points are added, or every time they have more than 3 minutes session, 10 points are added, and once they reach the goal score of 100, a pop-up will be shown. Similarly, for hit count, we have used login as 10 and the number of sessions that are more than 180 seconds as 5. So once they complete the number of events and sessions, they'll be able to see the ratings prompt. So as you can see here, you would have noticed that there's an option for OR, isn't it? So basically in Apptics, for configuring a ratings prompt, you can provide 5 different options of dynamic criteria that you set. So as you can see here, I have already configured 2. So you can automatically see a message telling you that you can configure up to 5 options and you have 3 more options available. So it works like, in developer terms, you can say that it works like the AND or OR logic. So for example, within this option, you have the AND logic applied, and then between the options you have the OR logic applied. So if your users fulfill any one of these options that you have provided here for the criteria, and once the criteria is fulfilled, they will be able to see the ratings prompt. So now I update the configuration and save the configuration. So once the configuration is done, they will be shown the pop-up based on the criteria that they fulfill. So as you can see here in the configurations list, you will be able to see the previously configured ratings prompts for different app versions, and then you can see the stats based on that and the status, like whether it is enabled or disabled for the particular app versions, and so on. So this is all about the in-app ratings feature in Apptics. So yes, by now we have come to the end of the session, and to summarize what we saw in the session, we saw how important it is to provide smooth user experience to users for app growth. Then we saw how to configure in-app update alerts, then the need for remote configuration for apps, and then we saw how to trigger in-app rating prompts using dynamic criteria. So if you have any questions, please let us know. And if you're watching this recording, please you can mail your queries to us at support@zohoaptics.com, and we'll be happy to assist you anytime. Thanks for your time.